Hello and welcome to the Relocation Specialist web seminar. Today we're going to look at how to set up agents so they can log into your database and view the records that have been assigned to them, as well as what the agents can do once they've logged in. We're going to start at the settings page and set up a new user. When I click users, you'll see all of the users. You'll just click add new, and you'll be able to select which agent you want to set up. So you just select the one that you want, and then notice that in this first required field it puts the last name, a comma, a space, and then the first name. Now you can enter that manually if you want to, but it's always easier just to look it up and click a button. Name to be used on forms and emails is important, but the rest of it, company, address, city, state, zip, not so much, because when an agent's logging in, they're not generating their own forms. They will supply updates and other things that come right back into the database for you, but they won't be sending a lot of outbound email and forms. So these aren't as important. Skipping down to the ID, the user ID is the unique ID that you want this agent to use. Now for agents, I suggest that you use the email address for that agent. That way you know it's unique from everyone else. And remember that it's unique not only for your database, but for everyone using ReloSpec. So it's very important that that be a unique value. The next field is password. This is where you're going to enter the password that they'll use. It must have at least 6 characters. Any combination of letters and numbers will work. And it can be repeated. If you want to, you can use the same password for all of the agents. I don't suggest that, but it does not have to be unique. And one other thing about the IDs and passwords, they are not case sensitive. So if you enter capital letters to make it easier to read them, that's great. Entering them, they don't have to be case sensitive. Next is access privileges. Now this defaults to full, and it really doesn't matter in the case of an agent whether you select any of these 4, because to the right of this is the license level. And for the license level, this is where it does matter. You're going to select agent. Okay. Now I have one that's all filled out, so I'm going to click cancel on this and show you how I have it filled out for our favorite agent, David Apple. I used the agent lookup to get the name here. I did put in the address, city, state, zip, the agent's email address, and so on. The rest of these settings, they do apply to a normal user, but for an agent level, they're not. They don't apply. Just make sure that license level is agent. That's the one that's important. Okay, so now that we've got our agent set up, just a couple words about all of the agents that you can set up in your database. You can set up as many as you like. There's no additional charge for your agents when you set them up. Plus, you can delete them at any time, which means that they no longer have access to their records in your database. And you can set the IDs and passwords, and you don't have to wait for them to be enabled by a ReloSpec team member. All right, so once you have the agents set up, it's now time for them to log in. How do you tell them to log in? Well, you know the ID and password. What you're going to do is tell them to go to myrelospec.com, myrelospec.com, and log in using the ID and the password that you created. Now, when they log in, you'll see that though they're logging into the exact same database you use, the page has been formatted so it fits a little nicer on an iPhone or an iPad or I should say smartphone or tablet or PC, whatever they happen to be using. Notice that when they log in, ReloSpec has identified who the agent is, and it will display all of the records that are assigned to that agent. Now, I say assigned. Really what I should be saying is that any record where that agent is the agent that's been selected by ReloSpec as the one assigned to that record. Let me explain. If it's an incoming record, if the subtype on the record that you enter is incoming, then ReloSpec is going to put into a special hidden field. You don't have access to it, but into that field it's going to put the last name, comma, space, first name of the agent, the assigned agent, if it's an incoming. If it's an outgoing, well, then we want to use the referring agent name. And you may recall that that first field when we were setting up the agent was last name, comma, space, first name. It follows the same format. And that's how ReloSpec knows which records to display for this particular agent. Okay, so it all happens behind the scenes. They just have to log in, and if it's an incoming or an outgoing, either way, it will display the records for that agent. Now, across the top in the navigation buttons, we have View All, View Active, Pending, and Closed. If we were to click any of these buttons, then it would display only those records where the status equals pending. If we wanted to look at only the closed, we'd click on View Closed. Now, if they want, they can search for a specific record, and this is a very common filter form that you use. They would use the same thing. Next is notes, expenses, images, and so on. Anytime that they have selected a specific record in the grid, then if they click notes, it would display the notes that are public for that particular record. This one doesn't happen to have any. Also, below the grid, if we were to look down there, just like on yours, when you log in, it does display any notes that there might be below the grid once you've selected the record. Okay. Now, one important thing about the records that they're looking at is that the notes, as well as the record itself, cannot be changed. In other words, if I click the pencil, I get the entire page just like we're used to seeing in ReloSpec. I see all the fields, but notice that there's no update button. The agent cannot change anything. They can select something different, but there's no place to save it. So all they can do is cancel, so when it comes back out to the grid, nothing has changed for that record. Okay, so it's read only for the agents. Notes and expenses, much the same. They view only those that are public, that you have made public. Notice that images is located here. Let's say that you have an agent that's done a BMA on a particular referral, and they want to upload that. Well, rather than fill it out and save it and email it to you and then you having to do it, if you have the images option, the agent can then just click images. They get the same page you're used to seeing. They can see, yes, I want to upload. They browse for it and upload the file, and it's available to everybody. So it's a great time saver for you. You let them upload the pictures or the BMA or whatever forms are needed. Next is agent info. Notice that here the agent is able to update their own phone number, email address, and a few other items regarding the agent. So rather than you having to maintain that, you give them the ability to do it. Now, next is add new. If they click add new, this is where they would submit a referral right into your database. So let's say they've just listed a home, they're moving out of town, then they would want to submit this into your database. And notice that when they click add new, it does default to the current date and time. and it fills in the office, the name, and other details about that particular agent. Okay, so that's helpful. Remember back when you were setting up the agent, there were some required fields. The first and last name and the email address on this form are required. So it'd be convenient to have those filled out in the user table. So the agent fills out the information with what he knows or she knows, and then clicks submit, and that comes right into your table. Now, let's go back. The other is send update. So let's say that they've just met with that client, and they don't want to wait for the next update request email to come to them. They can just click send update. It opens the form that they're used to using. They fill it out with, yes, it's still active, this is what's going on. They click submit, and it goes right into your responses table. One other thing about this particular page is that it does display up to 30 at a time. Okay, a little different. Yours is 6, but in this case, we allow them to scroll through more records before they have to click the next button or previous. Most often, I would think if they have many records in here, they're just going to click search and pull up the record that they want. Now, one other thing that the agents can do when they're logged in is they can run their own scorecard report. If they want a report of everything that's happened within a certain date range, they can do that. They just click scorecard. It does select this specific agent and displays the results. They can change the subtype. They can change the beginning and ending date, but they can't look at any other agent's information. This report only displays information just for that particular agent. Well, I hope this has been helpful and gives you a good way to get your agents entered and help them to have access to their records and better manage the referrals that are sent to them. Thanks, and have a great day.